Okay, so what we're going to cover in this session, in this live session, is that how, if you see here, right, I mentioned learning how to produce and consume masses to Kafka in Q. Okay, so that we are going to learn from Pega. Okay, uh, that how we can do it from the Pega side as well. So let's start that. Okay, so this is my agenda. In the next slide, I have mentioned that this is what we are going to learn. Okay, in this session. So overview of Kafka and its architecture. Okay. The second thing is that install and view Kafka cluster using Kafka UI tool. So basically install means that install Kafka UI tool. Okay. I can change the wording little bit here, look little different. And then we'll learn how to create topic using Kafka UI tool. Okay. So here, like, few things can be done from that, like we will talk more on this one. Let's talk about just agenda, and then once we create the Kafka topic, we'll create Kafka rule in Pega and establish the connection. Okay, then we will be creating a data set to produce or consume masses from Kafka topic. Okay, and then produce masses from Pega, okay, using activity. So we'll basically produce the masses, we'll send some masses to Kafka queue, so that we are going to do. And then finally we will try to consume that masses. Okay, that how we can consume the message. Okay, so let me just correct this one, because this is install and install Kafka. Okay, so let's just start with the what is, anyone have any question? Please explain Kafka in terms of queue processor. I'll try to cover that. So today we are mostly going to focus on the topic is basic Kafka and how we can consume and produce. Okay, if time permits, I'll definitely talk about the queue processor as well. Okay, so let's start that. Okay, so the first things in our agenda is what is Kafka. Okay, so I'm not the expert in the Kafka side. Okay, but here what we're trying to learn is that how we can use it in the Pega. Okay, that Kafka. Okay, so on a high level, I'll just try to explain that what is Kafka. Okay, and obviously if you read more in Google, you can find it. Okay, so not a problem. So I'll quickly try to explain Kafka, Apache Kafka. So Kafka is a like open source, okay, from the Apache. Is a distributed data store optimized for ingesting and processing, streaming data in real time stream. Okay, so instead of going on definitions, okay, what we see is basically it is being used for streaming the data. Okay, so one system can produce the data and another system can consume. Okay, so for that, okay, on a high level we use the Kafka. Okay, and Kafka provides some benefits. Okay, and because of that we use that, right? So in, if you see from the Pega side also, we have the obviously we have the Kafka integrations. Okay, but the other side, Pega have started using for queue processor and for other things, for job scheduler. Okay, and Pega also claims that it is a better than our previous agent. So obviously we have some benefits of Kafka. Okay, so on a high level, so this is the kind of like we use for data streaming, I can say that. Okay, Kafka provides main three functions to its user: publish and subscribes of a stream, okay, to a stream of records. Okay, that is what we are talking here. Okay, effectively store a stream of records in the order in which the records were generated. So this is very much important. Okay, so we can maintain the order. Okay, because order is very much important. Okay, if I take an example of one stock market, right? So let's say the exchange is publishing the data. Okay, that this is the price of the any stocks, okay, in a particular time. Okay, then the applications, like we have many applications which shows that the price, okay, of that stock market. So whoever is consuming, okay, they should consume in a right order. So Kafka also kind of maintains that. Okay, and then the process a stream of records in real time. Obviously it tries to process in real time. Okay, why Kafka kind of mentions, okay, on a high level. Okay, you can read, or like obviously I'll just read on a like the bullet points. Okay, the high throughput, okay, that is what we discussed. Okay, high scalability, okay, because it can provide multiple cluster. In that clusters we can have a multiple brokers. Okay, we'll see the architecture and then we will understand more. Okay, that how it can provide higher scalability. Okay, low latency, can deliver these volumes of masses. Okay, using a cluster of machine with latency as low as 2 milliseconds. Okay, so which is very less. And permanent storage and high availability. Okay, so scalability, high availability. So like nowadays we need a lot, okay, these kind of things. Okay, even if you're going many people are modernizing their applications, moving to cloud for these benefits. Okay, so this is where, like, on just high level I'm trying to cover, like, Kafka. Okay, let's see the architecture. Okay, that how it works. Okay, so here only if you see that multiple producer is there, right? So uh, like one system can produce, okay, or multiple system can also produce. So here we are producing the masses, and we are producing masses to Kafka topic. Okay, and topics comes under, like, broadly under broker, I can say. Okay, so in one cluster we can have a multiple broker also. Okay, and who maintains that? Okay, the ID, broker ID and everything, that it has been read or not. Okay, so we have the zookeeper. Okay, so that kind of a maintains. And then obviously we have the consumer group. So this is a producer group and this is a consumer group. Okay, so they can consume that data. Why, like, we have a multiple broker, and what is the usage, why we need that much? Okay, we need that much is that sometimes producer can be one but consumer can be multiple. Okay, so to provide high throughput, okay, scalability, availability. Okay, so we have this multiple broker. Again, I'll take the same example. Exchange is publishing the data, but there are like so many apps in the world who uses that same data and kind of publish the stock price, right? So that is where we have this one. If I'll show you this one, okay, on a high level, right? So how you can you can ask a question that inside the broker we have, okay, sorry, a topic is there inside the broker, or how it is. Okay, so kind of if you see here, it will explain little bit. Okay, that for topic also we can create a partitions, multiple partitions, okay, to enable high throughput. Okay, so in one broker, like if you see here, broker 101. Okay, so we have a, for topic A, partition 0 in that one, and in broker 2, okay, we have a partitions 2. Okay, and then in broker 3 we have a partitions 1. So basically in multiple broker we are kind of for the same topic we are creating partitions. Okay, so the data can be pushed, a lot of data can be pushed. Okay, and it can be utilized. Basically with this one we are kind of increasing the capacity and the throughput. So any questions as of now? So this is what, like, I was trying to kind of cover high level the Kafka. Okay, we are not going into detail. Obviously you can read more Kafka in Google.
Hi.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hi. It is here partition in the sense is exactly the storage or what?
Yes, yeah, so it's a partition is like kind of a storage. Okay, and in partitions data can be stored in a sequence manner also. Like, let's say similar data can be stored in one partitions. Okay, let's say for one stock. Okay, like for Apple it can be stored in one partitions. Okay, for Facebook it can be stored in another one. Okay, so like see, in partitions data when we store, right, so we can define how you want to store the data. Okay, so from when we stored from the Pega, we'll give a partition ID. Okay, let's say that the partition ID can be the stock price. Sorry, a stock tiger. Okay, so that can be the partitions. But if you're not defining, then Kafka will apply their own, like some logic. Okay, it could be round robin or some other algorithm to send that message to the topic. Got it?
What is the format of the storage type? Like binary, something different?
Yeah, it will be like binary. We will see that. Okay, I mean we can see that the masses, but it will be mostly stored in binary. Yeah, I think in hex key or something it will store. Yeah. So let's move ahead. Okay, and so this is what on a high level I wanted to cover. So if I go back to agenda, okay, so we covered that high level the Kafka and its architecture. Now we'll see that, okay, install Kafka UI tool and view the Kafka cluster using Kafka UI tool. So I have not installed Kafka like separately. So if you see, we are using personal edition, right? So Pega already, you know that Pega is using Kafka for their on purpose. Okay, for queue processor. Okay, and for search and for other things, right? So Pega is already installing that, so we can leverage that same Kafka instance. Okay, and see that today how it is working. Okay, so if you go to your like personal edition folder, and if you go inside Tomcat, you'll find a folder called Kafka. Okay, and then here it is there for Kafka data. Okay, so this is Kafka is already basically installed. When you're installing your personal editions, Kafka is already installed. Yeah, Omka, you have any question? Okay, so Kafka is already installed. So what we are going to do, okay, we are going to leverage the same. So if I go inside Kafka data, you will see that, okay, so these are, if you see these folders maybe look familiar to you, okay. So basically these are our queue processor. So what Pega does is, whenever we create any queue processor, Pega creates a Kafka topic, okay. So what queue processor does, okay, someone was asking question, right? So what we do using queue processor, whenever using queue processor, basically we push the data, we produce the data to Kafka queue, okay, or Kafka topic. We say that, okay, I want to send an email. For the email one, you can see that, okay, for send email, so I want to send an email. Now Kafka queue processor job is done, okay. And then whenever we create any queue processor, Pega creates a data flow, okay, which we usually do not see. If you go to admin studio and try to click that three dots, okay, in the right, you will see that, yeah, for each queue processor you'll see an options to see the data flow. If you see the data flow from there, okay, then you will see that Pega is creating data flow basically, okay, but that's not visible. If you go to data flow rule instances, you will not see there. So what Pega does is, okay, using queue processor it will create a topic, okay, and then using data flow it consumes the data, okay, and then process that whatever we give our activity, right, in queue processor. So that is what it does, okay. Now here let's say we want to create a topic, okay. So what is the way to create, okay, or how we can see these things in a better way, okay. So for that I have find out, okay, from Google we have a tool, and this is what the tool which we are going to use. So you can search in Google, you can find out some other tool, okay, but if you really want to learn, okay, you can install from here kafkatool.com, okay, and this is how it will look, okay. So if you see here, okay, so we have this is the Kafka, right, 1108. So if you see exactly the same thing we have here, this is the Kafka data, but this is where the Kafka configurations we have, okay. So I've installed this tool, okay, and while installing you need to give the connections details, okay. So important question is where we will see the connections details. So to see the connections details, you can go to Kafka and then inside bin, and then we can see, let me see somewhere we should see in bin, or 1 second, in config I think we can see server properties. So I'll show you this file, just give me a second. Yeah, so if you see this file here, we will get the connections details, okay. So here we need to focus on this listener part, okay. So here only we can see that the URL, okay, the host ID, okay, and the port, okay. So this is what important to connect to this Kafka tool. So if you see, this is what I have given, okay, Zookeeper host and then host port. Let me see the question. How a broker comes to. We will talk, Omkar will talk in the end, okay. Let me cover this one, okay, and then these questions we can cover. So here what we're trying to do, okay, we are trying to set up that UI tool for that Kafka, like similar way what we have, we use for our database, right? So this that will provide UI kind of things and we can do something, okay. So this is the important things, the host ID and the port, okay, and this is the same informations which we are going to use it in Pega as well. So from here you can see that we can manage, and if I see, like, so by default earlier Pega used to create this 20 partition, okay, I think before 8.6, okay, I was reading somewhere, but now it is just creating 6. If I go to any out of the box also, so this is the our PY process notifications, okay. So if I see here, we have how many partitions total, we have a 6 partitions, okay. And by default, okay, the value how it shows is that in byte array. So someone was asking this question, so we can see that it is the value is there in the byte array, okay. But let's say if you really wants to see in a string, you can convert it here, okay, and you can see that, okay, if you convert and then refresh, and you can go in data and then check that if you have any data. So you can see this is the data which we have, okay. Maybe in this one I need to see if the value is already there or not, because I have not queued anything, but some data is there, okay. But this data is also not visible, ideally it should be, okay. So for my queue I have configured a test queue. If I show you here, right, so in this one I have post some data, and you can see that we can see the data. But to see this data you need to kind of a configure, okay, that you want to see as a string, okay. Otherwise by default it will show in binary data, which you should not see from this UI, or ideally should not see from here. And it is true also, because for security reason also we should not expose that as a string, okay. we should leave the data as it is, so that only producer and consumer can, producer is producing and consumer only who has that access can read and understand the data and then process based on that. So now what we are going to do, okay, we are going to create a topic here. Okay, so let's try. Here we can click on topic and create a new topic, and this is the same topic which we are going to use that. Okay, and as I mentioned that if you don't know, like let's say if you're using externalized Kafka in your system, and if you really want to create a topic, okay, and quickly test it, you can just create a test queue processor. If you create a test queue processor, like whatever the name you'll give, okay, with that Pega will create a topic here. I can show that as well. Okay, but let's add a topic name here. So we can give Kafka session, something like that. We can give our topic name, and how many partitions we can define and how many replica cards. So for now we'll just give one. Okay, so once we give, we can see that our Kafka topic is here. Okay, Kafka sessions, and it created one partition. Okay, so 0 partition. Now let's see that, as I mentioned, that if I'll go ahead and create a queue processor in Pega, it will create a topic. So let's try that as well quickly. Let's go ahead and try to create a queue processor. Test qp1 I have already created with test qp2, so I'll just give qp1 so that we can quickly see that it is creating. I'll just give work dash and any activity. But if you're using local, like trying to learn, okay, you don't need to think. Okay, you can create a topic using that UI which I mentioned. But if you don't have that UI, you can use these things as well. Okay, you can just create a queue processor, and then Pega will create that automatically. It will create that Kafka topic. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, in some time ideally it should create that, so we can see that. Okay, but let's move towards our agenda. Okay, so we saw that how using UI we can manage this. Okay, so what we already we have is that we have a Kafka setup, we created that queue. Next things which we need to do is we need to establish the connections from Pega and that Kafka cluster. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so for that what we are going to do, we are going to create a Kafka rule. Okay, so we'll create a Kafka, so we can give Kafka session, something like that. Okay, and let's give the name. Now here we need to give our connectivity details. Okay, so for now we just need to add that host and port, and as I mentioned that where we can get that host details. Okay, so host details I explained that in the server properties file we can get. Okay, and we have already configured that same in the UI as well, so we can give that same here. Okay, 9092, and we don't have any SSL or anything. Okay, if you have any these kind of authentications mechanisms, because obviously when you work for your real-time projects, right, you need to add few more details. Maybe you need to upload properties file and then related to authorizations, but here to learning purpose, if you're using personal editions, we don't have to do much. Okay, let's try to do test connectivity. So you can see that test our connections is established. Let's see in the meantime if we got that our new topic. See, so test qp1 it got created, and by default Pega created that 6 topic. You can see that this is what I created, that queue processor. So whoever was asking, right, on briefly cover that queue processor. So this is how queue processor works. Whenever we create a new queue processor in Pega will create a corresponding topic in Kafka side, and then start pushing the masses to that one, and then also it will create a data flow, and then data flow will read the masses and it will kind of process that. Because what happens is that in case of queue processor, Pega is itself the producer. First it will produce, and then itself it will consume, okay, to process that whatever we want to do. So now our Kafka is set up. Okay, what is next is that we need to create a data set. Okay, so what is data set? Okay, so that also I've kind of somewhere mentioned that if you don't know. So data set is nothing, it's a collections of record. Okay, so collections of record. So obviously we are going to create a data set rule. Okay, and the data will come from the different sources, okay, whatever we are going to define. So here our data source is basically the Kafka, okay. So we are going to create a rule called data set. So the data set rule we can see here, okay, under data model. So we'll copy our name with the same name, we'll try to create a new data set.
Can you go for this one, say Kafka UI or Kafka rule?
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Kafka UI. So here I can see default it is created 5 clusters, or I don't know, but partitions. So it's a default 6 partitions created, or what?
Yeah, default 6 partitions. So if you see, right, this one is created by Pega. I created Kafka session, right? So I just created one, but by default Pega is creating 6 only, if you see. And if you search,
so what is that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what is the behind exact reason why this needed 6 partitions?
It is defined by Pega. If you want, you can increase more or reduce. Okay, like if you search in Google, right, you'll find that default somewhere I was checking the default partitions in Pega, something like that. If you search, we'll find that.
Like if you create from Pega, you create 6 partitions.
Yes.
Like if you create from UI, it creates only the one partition, like default one.
Yeah, so that no from the UI you can define. From the UI, let's say if you're creating, okay, let's try to create a new topic, okay. So UI you can define how many topic you want, okay, but from the Pega side it will create 6 by default, okay. But if you want more, okay, I think Pega had some settings. So if you see here, right, see the number of partitions, okay, is a global setting and you cannot change, okay, once you create a topic or start a node, okay. Obviously for a new topic you can do. The default partition is, okay, 6 starting in Pega platform 8.7, okay, and before that it was 20, okay. So this is the settings in PR config XML. We can change this as well. Got it?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So now let's create our data set, okay. So here, okay, from where we are going to take the data, we are going to take the data from Kafka stream, okay. Basically this is our Kafka stream. So we are going to select Kafka, okay, and we will create that. So when we create a data set, we need to give a class, okay, on which class you want to create. If you want reusability and other things, you can create in this class, right, workdesk class, or like wherever you want that you need to see. But for now I'll just simply create in workdesk class, okay. But depending on your need and like business use case, you can create. Okay, so here we need to select that Kafka thing. So we can select Kafka session, okay. This is what the Kafka we created. Select the list, select from that list. So if you don't know the topic name, right, so you can see that Pega is reading all the topics, okay. So you can select it from here as well, okay. Or ideally in real-time project you should use application settings with this topic. So you can create application settings and give the topic name there, so that even if you are distributing this to other team, right, they can just update, they can use this Kafka rule and Kafka session rule, okay, like data set and Kafka rule they can use, and they can just update their topic name, okay. But for now we have a kind of a hard-coded value, like, so basically we'll select from this drop down, okay, and this is what we created. So we'll select Kafka session. Okay, so this is what initially someone has asked the questions, okay, that how the partitions will be used, okay. So here you can see that Pega is asking, okay, it's a mandatory. If I'll try to save, okay, it won't save. So it's a mandatory to define a key. Let me see if I'll remove this one, it will save or not. Okay, so Pega is expecting we should give some partitions key, but like Kafka is not like it's expecting, okay. So if you do not give, you can read in Google. If you're not giving, okay, then also it will work, but then Kafka will apply some default logic. So here we can give any key, okay. So let's say I can give PY level, okay, but here you need to define based on your business logic. So let's say we can define PYID as well, okay. So what it will happen, obviously it will not help much because each times we create a new PYID, okay. So it will not help much, but something, okay, if you have some key you can define. So for now I have just defined PY level, and these things you can select a data format. So I just want to select data format because this is what I'm going to use, okay. and now we can check in that, and from here also we can do test connectivity. So now let's recap again. So what we did, we saw that UI, we created the topic. Okay. Also we saw that when we are creating a queue processor, it is creating a topic in Kafka side. Okay. We created the Kafka rule in Pega, and we set up the connectivity, and now we created the data set as well. Now the next thing is that we need to send something. Okay. Produce the data from Pega. Okay. Whatever the new topic which we have created. So let's try that. Okay. Let's see how we can do that as well. So there are like multiple ways we can send the data. Okay, you can send it from the data flow as well, and you can use from the activity. Even you can run this data sets. Okay, but to send the data, okay, we need to do something from here. So basically what I'll be doing, I'll be creating a new activity. Okay, and from there I'll try to send the data. Okay, so let's see how we can do it. So I'll create a new activity. I had already created, so I'll just quickly save as this one, Kafka sessions. I'll give the same name, and I'm creating in the same class. Okay, so what we can do, we can create a page. Okay, page like Kafka page or a data page, something like that. Let's say Kafka page, that this is the data which we want to send. Okay, basically this is our message page. Okay, and so let's say the way we build our JSON file, right? So what we do when we response, okay, or when we send the data to some external systems, we set everything on a page, and then finally we convert the JSON and then send it. So this is how here also we need to do. Okay, we can create a page, and on that page whatever the value we want to set, okay, we can set that. Okay, so let's say we can say Kafka here, and then in this one Kafka live session or something, whatever the value you want to send, we can do that. Okay, so here the key we have defined is py label. Okay, so once we see that value right to this topic, we will be seeing that the value which is showing is, let's define this property as string update. Okay, I think here when we saw for this one we didn't update it, that is where we didn't see that. So if I'll update to string, a string, and update, maybe we can see the data in that string format, or we don't have any data. I think in this one we need to queue. Okay, fine. So this is how the new. Okay, and we have already updated that. Okay, we should have the data and the properties. That data should be this one, in this one. Okay, that our data should be showing a string. So eventually what we should see, okay, that these two value when I'll run this activity. So let's see and try to publish some message. So we can now simply run this activity, and it is successful. So let's see that if we can see some value or not. We're not seeing that. Let's see that. Why? Ideally we should see the, okay, I think not there. Here we should see. Here also it's not showing. Let's see that. Okay, I think I understood that problem. Okay, we need to update this data set. Sorry. So Kafka session. So let's update. So when we're executing, so this is the data set execute methods which we have from the activity, and we need to select that what we want to do. So browse is to get the data. Okay, consume the data, and save is to publish the data. So we are going to use save. So let's use save, and then save this our activity and try to execute again. So now this time we should definitely see some data. Yeah, see, this is the data which we published, right? So we can see that, okay, pxo is a class called work, and then pyd live session, and py label is Kafka, and then key we define as a Kafka. So this key can be used to send the value in that right partition. Okay, got it? So like first part we saw that, okay, that how we can send the data. Okay, now the question is that how we can consume this data. So that we need to learn. Okay, so to consume this data, so the very easy things, if you're testing, right? So the first things which we saw is that obviously we can see the data from here that it is coming. So this is one way to verify. Okay, but just verifications will not help. We need to use the data as well. Okay, second, verifications you can do from this data stream rule only. You can run this. Okay, and here you can say browse. Okay, once you do that and run, it will show the data whatever you have published in that topic. So from here also we can see the data. Okay, so we can see that. Okay, so we have that result one, and then we publish, okay, the PYID, the value is live session, and PY level we publish some value. Okay, so we can see that. So this is the one way, but this way, like, we cannot manually go and run, right? So then how we can utilize that data? Okay, so let's say we want to use this data and log it, okay, and to Pega, right? So to our log, or like maybe you want to save to a database or something. So how we can do that? So to do, what we can do is, okay, we can use the same activity or different activity. Just what we need to do is we need to have a code Pega list page. Okay, so let's try and see that. Okay, from activity how we can do it. So we'll add a step and we'll have the same step. Just this time we'll have the browse instead of let's leave that page blank, and instead of this time data set, instead of save, we'll have the browse. So we'll keep that browse, and this time it's asking that a code Pega list page, so we can give that page. So Kafka data list we can create, and class we can define code Pega list. So we need to give that same, and for the result we can define kafka.px result, and we can define this class, because eventually that PYID and other thing is there in this class only. So let's give this one, save it. So now to see that value, we can just add a step page, and let's comment this this step and this step. Maybe we can create a page for that same, just to avoid any issues. Now we can run and see if we're getting the data. So let's run it. So it's taking some time. Okay, so it is successful. Let's see that if we got the data. See, we had one PX result, right? So we got the data. So now if we have the data, okay, we can use it for any purpose. Let's say if you have like consuming, let's say another system. So here we only publish the data, but let's say in your real-time project, right? So you want to integrate with the systems who is sending the data in your in a Kafka queue, okay, and you need to consume that, okay, and like update your case, okay, or create a case, or just save it into a database table. So those things you can do it, because now you have a PX results, okay, so then you can do it easily, okay. So again we learned to see from the like Kafka UI tool, and then also we saw that using the data set we can see, okay, and then we learned using activity also we can do, okay. If you have activity, obviously you have a lot much flexibility that you can do anything with this data. There is another way also that you can read is, and that's how the Pega Q processor reads, okay. So let's go to admin studio and see that what happens when we create any Q processor. So we'll see that way also, that how we can use that the data. Let's click on overview. It's little slow. So as from the beginning I'm explaining that whenever we create a queue processor, okay, it will create a topic, and in that topic, like let's say if you want to send a notifications also, Pega push to that topic, and then the data flow will read that, okay. So if I open any queue processor, right? I was saying that from here we can see that Pega has created a data flow. So the responsibility of this data flow to read the data and process it, okay, and how it will process it, that whatever the activity we have defined in queue processor. So similarly, okay, we have, let's say that we publish the data using our activity, okay, now we want to consume that, okay, so we learned that how we can consume using activity, and also we saw that how we can verify from UI tool or from the data set. Now if you want to do the similar things like, okay, read the data using data flow also, okay, how we can do that? So let's create a data flow and try to read that same data, okay. So for that, again, I'll copy that name and create a data flow. To create a data flow, we can go to data model, and data model, let's say we can create in decision. I think we will get the data flow in data model. Let me see. Let me see from here why I'm not. Okay, sorry. Yeah, here only. Yeah. So let's create, and class, again we can give the same class this time as well, work task, and let's create this. Okay. So now if you see, okay, the data flow, so the first shape is abstract, so we can define what we want to do from this shape, okay. So we want to read the data from data set, so we can define our data set, okay. So we have our Kafka sessions, okay, and in this one we can see that we have a read only existing or new records, okay, or you can just want to read the new records, okay. So if you are promoting first time and if the data is already there in some queue, in the queue, we can use these options. You can read in PDN also, okay. Ideally you can use these options also. So what it will do, it will first read the existing data and it will start reading that the new data. It's not that it will read each and every time it will read the existing data. No, once it will start, it will read the existing data, and then later on it will start reading as the new record, okay. So let me submit, and let's see if this data, run this data flow, and let's see if this is working and reading the data, okay. So this also we can run here, and to run this one we need to select few things here. So you need to make sure that your access group is correct, okay, and the instance service instance name is basically our node name. So most of the times we need to select background processing node, okay. Here in personal editions we have, I think, only one node, but maybe if you are in a real projects you'll have multiple nodes. So based on your node, okay, or the service instance, you need to select, mostly it will be processing, background processing. So we'll select this one, okay. If you want to do additional processing, you can do, but for now we are not going to do anything, just we will run, okay. And what is the expectations from this data flow is that it should process one record. Obviously we have not defined that what we want to do with the records, okay, which we will process, okay, but at least we will see that it is reading one record. So let's run it. So it is in slicing, it will take some time and it will try to read that. Let's see if it is reading. So see, we can see that it processed one record. So we had already we have only one record, okay. So now what I'll be doing, I'll be sending some more data, and we'll be seeing that, okay, if it is processing or not. So this time I'll enable this step and just comment that last two step, okay, and we'll publish some more data. So that what will happen, so this is how the queue processor also works. The moment you'll queue it, okay, the data flow using queue processor, the data flow will execute, okay, and process the data using your queue processor activity. So let's run it. So now we kind of sent two data. Let's see that quickly. See here, it processed another one, right? So this is how it is processing. And now we'll learn one more thing in this data flow, that let's say how we can use this data also, okay. Let's say if you want to do something, so here we have few options in this connector. What you can do is you can add a data transform, or we have an options to add activity as well. So here, let's say I'll just simply add a data transform, okay, and then we'll say that process data, something like that. We can give a name, process data, and we can create that data transform here. And simply I want to just log this data, whatever we are reading. So it will come in a JSON format, okay, and it will map to clipboard page. So basically you'll get in px result only, so the first record, and then result1.py label py id, in that way only you'll get. So we'll just try to log. So let's see, we'll use log message function. And obviously if you have options to add the data transform, and we have an options to add activity also, okay, so then you can do anything with your data. Okay, as I mentioned, you want to create a case, you want to update a case, you want to just save it to the database. So log message reading data from Kafka, we can just give this message and give star, give some more star here plus, and we'll just append that dot pyd plus py label. Let's say I just want to stamp that same data. Okay, so okay, fine. Okay, so I think this is not correct. Okay, should be good now. Okay, I don't know, let's try to save it. Oh, didn't save. Let me try again. First let me save this rule and then try to add that message. Just give me a second, it is taking some time. Okay,
so we didn't populate those properties, right? Will it be available QID?
Yeah, it will be available. Yeah. So what Pega will do, okay, using data set, it will map, okay, it will form the clipboards, right? Like the way I ran that, right? If I run manually, okay, we will see that in that px result format. So in the same way we can see, okay, using data flow also. So see here we can see 2 px result, okay, and on that 2 px results, inside that px result we will have the property value, okay, so key and the value. Similarly the data flow will also run, okay, and it will populate the data in the same fashion. Okay, so see, this is what I'm going to stamp, okay, pyd and py label. So see, we have a 2 result, 2 item in our topic, and we are seeing here. So now let's try to log that same. So instead of doing that, first I'll submit it and then update this value. Just I want to stamp both the attribute. Let's check in this rule. Let's check in this rule as well. And here in that last, again it has added an abstract shape, so we don't want to do anything. But if you want to, let's say, add activity and do it something else, as I was saying, right, we have an options to use activity also, so that also we can do. But for now we don't need anything, so we'll just say abstract only and check in this rule as well. Now what I'll be doing, okay, I can publish one more message and see that if it is working for the new one or not, okay, or I can start my data flow again. So let's see that, let me try to publish one more data. So third one we published. So 3, let me stop, okay, and restart again. So we can stop that, okay, and we can start again. So if you want to edit anything, okay, that also we can do, but for now we don't want to edit anything, like I just showed you, and then we can restart. So see, when we are restarting, it will process from the beginning. But in productions, what will happen is that once we start, right, we will not stop, okay, and the data in any Kafka queue, right, or Kafka topic, okay, so you can define usually 3 days, 2 days, okay, or 5 days, that each and every organizations have a different time period, okay, till what time you want to keep the data. So it processed 3. Let's see if we can see something in our log file. Okay, so we'll go to our log. And we can see that if, and we are running on background node processing. So if you are doing your POC, let's see in your application, so maybe that log, or if you want to try, that will go to that background processing node. Okay, it won't be on your node, or it won't be with your ID even if you have one node. So let's see that if we can see something. I can increase the size. Okay, again it's just a more, maybe I can download that log, or we're not seeing that.
Change 500 to 5,000 or something else.
Come again. Yeah, I can download that. Please enter a value. Let me see that. Okay, let me download that log file. Okay, no, I don't know. This is the password. Let me see if it stamp. Okay, but ideally it will work. If it is not working, then also it is fine. We can check that. Okay, that why it is not working, but that is how we can read that. So I'm not seeing that. Maybe we can restart again, because let me see. So what we did, we are just
What did the last page? You are just checking the first 2 pages.
no, I think I checked that. Let me check again. Yeah, see, so okay, so the value we are not seeing. No, I think we are seeing, see, session, live session, and Kafka. See, we can see the value. So it is reading. So we have a three, right? So we read 3 messages from that queue, and that 3 we can see in the log message, right? So it processed 3, okay, and that is what we can see. You can see here also, okay, that your data transform ran. So now you have the value, okay. So once you are able to stamp that value in that log, you can do anything with this data, because you have the data transform rule and you have the data. Okay, so you can do anything. So I think we covered our most of the topic. Hello,
Yeah.
you go ahead.
So we can see in the threads, data flow having a 5 threads, right? So can you open that data flow rule? So you can see that 5 threads.
Yeah,
Not this one. I saw someone.
that may be for out of the box one, okay, for the queue processor.
But we are processing 3 records. So if we disputed the 3 records into 5 threads, or also all 3 records will process in the same thread, how it will process?
No, actually I'm not getting your question. So here we have a thread, only like 3 records we have processed, right?
Yeah, I understood. But so somewhere I saw the thread. So
Oh,
5 threads.
yeah, that you saw here, okay, but we don't have that much throughput, okay, so we can reduce, okay. I think if I'll edit, you can see that, okay. So Pega has a
Yeah.
definition, yeah, so you can read here that, okay, one thread can process this much, okay. So by default it is showing 5. You want to reduce, you can reduce, okay, and check that. But you cannot simply increase, because if you are increasing, you need to increase your hardware as well. That is what it is saying. The number of threads should not exceed the number of the core on the data flows nodes. Check your hardware specification in order to determine the maximum number of possible threads to use. And if you go to queue processor, Pega says that, okay, one thread can, like, I think process 20 partition or something, okay, that Pega is saying. So this is by default. You can reduce, as I said, but you should not increase. If you're increasing, you need to revisit your hardware sizing. Okay, so this is what, yeah.
And I understood. Actually, what I'm asking here is that each thread can be passed to only single record, or else each thread can
No, no, no,
process
no, no,
multiple,
no, 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 no. It's not like that. If I'll do one also, it will process all. No. Yeah, yeah. So if I'll restart, right, the one thread can also process. I want then in that way, right, like you are publishing huge amount of data, right? So then you need like each thread, like one thread one message. No, it won't be. One thread can process unlimited messages. See, it process with the one thread also. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, so on a high level, this is what my agenda was, to show end to end that how we can kind of create Kafka topic, okay, create Kafka rule in Pega, how we can produce the masses, how we can consume if you're consuming, how we can consume from the data set or from the activity and from the data flow, and how we can use as well. Okay, so for the usage, I just showed in that log, but obviously, if you have any other requirement, you'll be able to achieve it using uh, your data transform, and you can use the data. Okay, so if you have any questions, please let me know, or we can like or close the session.
Thank you for the query. Hi, hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, like, in terms of like the downtime of the server, how this will be maintained, like as is status of that overall Kafka thing. So in that case, how this will be maintained, because it will be in a transit of that processing of the records. So if server goes down with some
Yeah, so
XYZ
if,
reason.
if server goes down, okay, then obviously you need to like see when the chances is very less that, okay, if you're like kind of sending some data and then Kafka went down, right? So it can happen with your queue processor. Let's say you are trying to submit a case, and then when you're submitting, you're trying to send an email. Let's say you are using a notification, at that time only server went down, so we can't do anything if server is going down. Okay, your data will also not process, means your case will also not move forward. At the same time, Pega will also not send the data to queue processor, getting it, because everything will get stopped, right? Because Kafka and this is like like related. If let's say the Kafka is only it's going down, then obviously the data will not be published to Kafka queue, or the topic. Then you need to republish. Okay, it can happen, let's say that sometimes you see that that email you are not receiving. Okay, even if your case is moving forward, you are not receiving email because there is some issue with the Kafka, your stream node is not running. Okay, so in that kind of a scenario, obviously you can move with your main actions, primary actions, but alternate actions like sending email will not work. So you need to, let's say if you're like kind of a sending a different data, not that like the email one what I talked, so then you need to revisit that till what point I have sent the data, and you need to maybe readjust your rule to send the old data or the history data, or you can, if you want, you can continue with that real time data. So it all comes to business, right? How you can do exception handling.
Yeah, one more thing, how many keys we can pass, maximum number of keys in that?
One only, keys one only. So keys, yeah, let's say you have a combined key. Okay, let's say you are not able to determine that, okay, what should I like pass as a key, and you want to combine. Obviously you can create one attribute. Here Kafka rule is accepting one only, so you can create a kind of a like pizza Dennis key we have, right? Pega combines that and create a key. In that also you can create attribute, combine all those value and give in that partition keys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining. I'll upload this video, so if you want to rewatch and kind of do this POC.
Yeah, thanks, Lalit. This is really helpful. Thank you
Yeah,
very much
thank
for
you.
your help.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, bye.
Thank you.